We're joined today by KL Chan from Malaysian Insight for Frontpage. Thank you so much for joining us, Chan. Let's get to our first article about Rapid KL. Now, what do you think of Rapid KL's initial statement of retracting social distancing in public transportation?
Yeah, I think Rapid KL wasn't thinking so. It was probably thinking of the number of people who need to take transport every day. So with social distancing, I suppose I haven't seen the numbers, but the number of people taking public transportation will be cut down by a third or half at peak hours, and that's a problem for them. So I guess it was too quick. Yeah, it was too quick, and the numbers have come down. Yeah, I think yesterday's latest numbers were only 2 extra new cases, and I think for about 3 or 4 days now we have seen fewer and fewer local transmissions. Even when we have reported double digits, a lot of it's either imported or they are more detention centers. So from a risk perspective, that's probably quite low. Yeah, so I guess Rapid KL was moving in that direction to ensure that there are enough people as people get back to work. There's that the capacity can go back to full capacity.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it feels a bit too early. Everyone is still big concerned, over these things. So it was good that they retracted as soon as they could.
Yeah. But what can Malaysians expect as the new norm when it comes to taking public transportation, especially, since public transportation tends to be packed, buses and trains and all that, especially during peak hours?
I think mask is always good, because everybody, all those who have gone to Japan, for instance, countries like Japan, and even before the coronavirus, a lot of them use the mask.
Yeah.
Right, Hong Kong transportation, public transportation on the MRTs, a lot of people do use the mask. Yeah, and the Japanese, for instance, they practice a very strong, strict protocols in their as a social norm in public transportation. Like they don't eat, they don't talk loudly on the phones. They try not to cough or sneeze at all. So yeah, I think these are some of the good habits that we all can pick up. Yeah, from other countries who do this, and maybe coronavirus is one of those things that allow us to start a new habit. Yeah, of public transportation.
But do you think social distancing should still? I mean, yes, Japan is famously known for having their trains packed to the brim. But with coronavirus, with COVID-19, maybe the capacity for all these public transportation, maybe they should revise that and maybe think about having some sort of social distancing on trains and buses permanently?
Social distancing in a public transportation would really depend on how many trains you have. So, if you have more trains going quickly, coming in, it handles the capacity. Yeah. Like you pointed out, Japan has always been quite an example for how they pack the buses like sardines.
Yeah.
And the Japanese have a lot of trains, right? And anybody who's gone to Japan, you go to Osaka, you're looking at 30 lines going in and out of the main stations. And even then, it's still packed, right? And of course, fewer people drive in places like that as well. So I guess for us, we are not packed as badly, but as time goes by, increasing the number of trains and frequency during peak hours, that would handle it. After what has happened in the last 3 months, nobody wants to get packed like sardines. Everybody's worried about each other. I mean, if you go to the malls now, and even you go to the restaurants which are beginning to open up, people are trying to keep a safe distance.
Yeah.
I find. Sorry.
I think when you walk, you sometimes you avoid touching someone else's shoulder even.
Yeah, I mean for pretty well, we're not Europe, we're not Europe or Western where there's a lot more touchy-feely going on, like huggings, exchange of hugs and all that. But we have our salaman, so that is something that we are already sort of cutting out from our habits. So yeah, I don't see why we can't do we shouldn't do social distancing in public transportation particularly.
All right, let's move on to our next news piece. And this is about a news piece that just came out. And Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said that Pakatan Plus, with 107 or 108 MPs, will move forward as a team. Now, in your opinion, what does he mean by they will move forward as a team? Does it mean that they will challenge Perikatan Nasional as the opposition, or is this another move for another backdoor government?
Well, with 107, you can't do much as a backdoor government because you need at least your 112, right? So I guess it would mean, as the opposition, yeah. But more importantly, I think there's, I think that at the back of everyone's mind at the moment, they are thought that there'll be elections, right? Yeah. It's either this year or next year. So it's important for Pakatan Harapan, which currently has 91 after they lost Lubuk Antu last week, and to work with any other party or individuals who are not for the government going into the next elections. Yeah, so that is important. So that's where the 107 extra comes from. The extra 10 or so, or extra 16. Yeah, extra 16. So like I said, I guess it's to put up as an opposition front. Yeah.
I mean, like you said, 107 seats, it's not majority. They can't really do much at this point. But how significant is this amount as an opposition coalition?
It's very significant. Because 107 is just 5 short of 112 of the magic number. Yeah. So you could, okay, let's go to Day One Rakyat, for instance. Yeah. So Day One Rakyat, you need to pass bills with a simple majority. Most bills, unless you are amending the federal constitution, which is 148, which is 2/3 of the 222. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for the remainder of Perikatan Nasional's government term in government, amending the federal constitution with 115, which would mean they would be about 33 MPs short, is virtually impossible. Mm. You need to get 33 guys from the other side to help you out. When Pakatan tried to amend the constitution, the first time they tried to amend it in, I think, 2018, when they tried to amend Article 1, which was to restore the status of Sabah and Sarawak. Remember that? Right. And they fell short. They had about 135, 136 MPs, and they were short of about 8 or 9 MPs, and they were short. You're short, you're short. So for Perikatan, they can't do anything with the federal constitution in the next 2 years or as long. And then now we come to normal bills, right? Like the budget and every supply bill and all that sort of thing. So you need your 112. So what this means for Perikatan is that every time there is a parliament session, and on the days that they want to amend anything, they would have to have 112 people sitting in Dewan Rakyat all the time. That's not easy. I mean, if you look at last year and all that, and in some mornings during Dewan Rakyat, they can't, they had 1 or 2 times when they struggled to get enough people into the hall to start the Dewan Rakyat session, and then I think that's about,
get 112.
Yeah. So so now you need 112 sitting in the room all the time,
Yeah.
whenever you want to pass a bill.
Yeah.
And it's not just limited to bills. A lot of people don't realize that. Is to even pass simple motions. Every time you call for a motion will be like, let's say at 11:30, when the government MP says that, okay, today's session we should go to 5:30 p.m. We should end at 5:30 p.m. or until the end of the debate. Even that simple motion would require a majority support. You see, you have like 130 or 140. You have a nice safe buffer. You can just call for the voice vote. But in this case, a lot of these motions are going to be contested. So it's going to be very hard.
So it's going to be hard for the current government to pass any bills or to pass any motions if the whole entire team is not there.
They have to ensure that nobody goes on MC.
Yeah. So which is meaning that means what Pakatan Plus says, whatever happens every time that there's a parliament sitting, we're going to get 107, 108 people there just to put pressure on the government, right?
Yeah. I mean, if the opposition has about 100 people, you have to make sure you have 102.
Yeah.
101. Right. So that's not easy. For a 2-week session, 7-hour day, it's not easy. It's harder for Pakatan. It's more difficult for Pakatan than it is for the opposition.
All right.
Perfect.
Great. All right, let's move on to our next one. It's about Tun Dr. Mahathir and Bersatu. I think a lot of people, me and JD included, we are not sure what's happening in Bersatu right now. Legally, who can actually stake a claim to the party, especially if the party was actually founded by Tun Mahathir?
Okay. Well, my standard caveat is that something that like this now has come to the point where you have to let the courts are the ones who decide. Yes, Tun M founded, Tun Dr. Mahathir founded the party together with, I think, 6 other people, and among them, some other founders were also removed or had their membership stopped, which include Youth Chief Syed Saddiq, and then who else was that? Mukris Mahathir. These were among the founders. Muhyiddin was also a founder. I think Dr. Rais Hussein was also a founder, and then another one was Akram Shah Sanusi from Kedah. These are all the founders. So as far as the ROS or the party is concerned, who founded the party is not important. Because at the end of the day, who runs the party, it depends on votes, right? Yeah, just like any other political party or club or association. So now the problem for Bersatu is it was founded in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, September, but they have not had party elections. Right. So the initial guys who are all there, they are all the founding members, and then so there was a little gap which allows them as the founding members, as the initial team, to be office bearers. None of them are elected into office. Okay. Right, including the current guys. So they were supposed to have elections this year, and that was supposed to decide, who's going to be president, chairman, and all that. Now, for Bersatu, for Mahathir, Dr. Mahathir and gang, the problem lies is that they have been removed, so they can't even challenge for the party election. That's that's a bit unfair, right? So on the year that they're supposed to have elections, so as like I said, the legal points on who had mandate to sack who and who had mandate to remove who, and all that has to be determined by the courts. We just can't do anything. But he has lost a big momentum after he was removed.
But how about these lawsuits that he's bringing up? These lawsuits, he's suing Muhyiddin over this dispute.
I don't think he's challenging Muhyiddin directly. He's challenging the party. Yeah. So like I said, the big I think he's challenging the party on several fronts. Like one of them is was it constitutional? Was it removal constitutional? You see, when they terminated or stopped. Oh, okay. See, the terms are so tricky. The memberships, they use something called Article, I think, or Article 10.2.2 and 10.2.3, if I'm not mistaken. So 10.2.2 says that a person or a member ceases to be a member of Pakatan if they announce that they have left the party.
Okay.
Yeah. So none of the five guys have made such any announcements as far as we know.
Yeah.
So then the second article says that if you have joined another party. Yeah. So none of them again have joined another party.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as we know. So there appears to be grounds on that, on that front. But again, it's really up to lawyers and judges to look into this. Yeah.
But hypothetically, can a PM still continue to be a PM if he no longer has a party that he belongs to?
Yeah, they can.
Oh.
I cannot remember any examples at the moment. But our federal constitution, Article 43, says that the Yang di-Pertuan or the king appoints the person, a member of parliament to be prime minister if he has the support of the majority of Dewan Rakyat. It doesn't say that he has to belong to a party or at all. So
even if he's an independent, but he has support by everybody else, he can be prime minister, even if he's an independent.
Yeah. I think to a certain extent that was what Tun was going for he talked about pushing for when he resigned in February and was talking about a unity kind of government.
Yeah.
So he was hoping that the majority of the house would still support him and he could still be reappointed. Yeah, but that didn't work out so well for him.
All right.
The long and short of preventive detention is detention without trial. Yeah, I mean under norms, it's if you are detained, you're supposed to be produced in front of a magistrate within 24 hours. Yeah. To see whether there's any reason to charge you or to extend. The current law does allow for remands, which is detention, to be extended up to I think 7 or 14 days, depending on the type of alleged crime. What do you call it? Involved, right? But and in the past we used to have something called the Internal Security Act.
Yes.
Yeah. Which was repealed in I think 2011 or 2012. Yeah, and we brought in something called SOSMA, which is the full name is Security Offences Special Measures Act 2012. Yeah. So going back to the original question, which is what is a preventive detention? So these detentions allow the police to continue, to investigators to continue investigating the alleged crime. Yeah, so for a small, short period of time, you can be held while the police interrogate you or gather more evidence against you.
But what is a short, small period of time? Is there like a specific amount? What is the maximum? What is the minimum?
So in the case of ISA, which was a real problem. One of the major problems for ISA was I think detention up to 60 days, without trial. So in the 80s and 90s when it was employed, and the other key controversial element of the ISA was that the extensions for ISA periods are at the sole discretion of the minister. Yeah, of the Home Minister in that sense. Yeah. So we had we had people detained under ISA in Kemunting, for up to years, 2 years, 3 years, political detainees, like a lot of the opposition members, even activists, were all detained for up to 2-3 years, and they had no legal recourse to challenge the detentions.
Wow.
So when ISA was repealed, it was replaced by SOSMA, right? So SOSMA provides for detentions for up to 28 days without going to court.
Okay.
So it's shorter, but it's shorter, and there are elements that it is harder for the authorities to extend the detentions under SOSMA. So that's a small positive point of SOSMA.
Yeah, but this rule of like detaining without trial, it's like someone accusing someone of being guilty until they are proven innocent, isn't it?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it is. Okay, let's look at it this way. United States have it as well. I forgot what's the name for it, and they introduced it after the World Trade Center bombings, right? So the argument for governments having it was, and even our own ISA to a certain extent in the early days, was used to detain like communists and elements like that.
Yeah.
And these were meant to be for people alleged to have conducted crimes against the interests of the nation. So it's not like an individual crime. It's not like one person trying to harm another person and you detain them. But it's against the interests of a nation. So like communists, then big bad word, still is. Terrorists, big bad word. And so it allows the authorities to detain them and to collect evidence against them before going to trial. Right. What has gone wrong for us, or even Singapore did it as well, is that they started using these laws against political rivals. So so that became problematic. I mean, even SOSMA, it was it was stated there that you should not detain people. Even ISA, I think there's a section which says that you should not detain political opponents. But Maria Chin Abdullah, the current MP for PJ, was detained in I think 2017 or 2016 for like 30 days under SOSMA for organizing one of the birthday rallies.
So in the past, it was all literally for the internal security of the nation. Now this is using preventive detention for people smugglers. So it's a completely different thing now.
Yes. See, this is the tricky part. They redefine the alleged crimes. So it's like people smuggling, the people smuggled brought in could bring in COVID, they could bring in drugs, they could bring in guns. So therefore they are a security to the nation and extend it, right? So it's a very slippery slope. It becomes a very slippery slope when you extend the definition of what is prejudicial to the government or prejudicial to the country. If you remember in 2016 or 2017, and then Barisan Nasional tried to redefine changing government as prejudicial to the country. Remember that?
Okay.
Yeah. But what happened in February?
Don't remember.
No, this February.
This February.
Government.
Oh yeah.
Remember, a few people. I remember covering those cases. A few people were detained and questioned for trying to challenge the legality or trying to challenge, the government, through courts or through the parliament process, the parliamentary process, right? And the then government and politicians said, oh, this is akin to trying to pull a coup d'etat, of the government, and investigated them. But in February, we had a similar. We had a change of government in February without elections, and that happened.
Malaysia schools to reopen in phases starting from June 24th, and with Form 5 and Form 6 students to resume school on June 24th. Are the steps taken by the MOE sufficient, you think, to keep our children safe?
To be honest, I haven't looked into the exact SOPs, so I can't really say that whether they're sufficient or not. But I mean, I've taken a glance, and it says things like taking temperature at the point of entry, ensuring that they're staggering the recess time. The times that they go out. They're ensuring that classes are no bigger than 20, so there's social distancing in class as well. So these measures will go a long way towards helping ensuring that it's safe for these students to resume classes.
Mm-hmm. But since we have started online classes for quite a lot of number of schools, do you think that this should be continued on, like how the higher education, they've actually decided to have online schools for their university student until end of the year? Do you think online schools should be continued at this point?
Until end of the year?
Yeah.
It goes back to the argument on okay, there are multiple factors. First factor to look at, I would say, is that the COVID threat is not as bad as it was back in February or March, when and even until late May, we still had new COVID cases coming from local transmission, which was that infamous Sri Petaling gathering in February, right? So currently we don't have that many. So the threat is, really much cut down, particularly since we have closed our borders. So you don't get new cases from visitors from other countries. What we only get when we come, what we get is Malaysians returning from overseas, but that's tapering off as well. So then the risk factor is much lower. That's the first point to begin. The second point, when we talk about online classes, it goes back to things like internet connection. So students who live in urban areas would have no problem attending such classes. But we have large pockets of rural areas that will, that this would not work at all for them. Yeah, so that would be pretty unfair if we, overextend online classes.
Now, Chan, are you a parent yourself?
No, I'm not.
You're not, okay. But I mean, if you were, would you send your child back to school as soon as it opens? Or would you still be a bit wary?
I would send them back to school. First, to get them out of the house. And get some form of sanity back. I don't know. Jokes aside. So I think as we reopen businesses and all that, we have to find a way to get back to life. That's important. Schools is a big part of life for everyone. So let's look at some of the examples of countries which have done it, and with the right discipline and protocols, it can work. Taiwan, for instance, one of the key examples, one of the splendid examples on how to tackle COVID. After they have shut off their borders, they ensured no new cases came in, right? And then slowly the infections in the country, within the country, died down. Right. If you have no new viruses coming out from your neighbors, the chances that the virus will die out after a period of time. Right. So let's say talking about schools, for instance, they only closed their schools for 10 days. They extended the winter break by 10 days.
Right.
So they had their schools open from, I think, February. They maintained the schools, until now. Denmark has reopened their schools. Germany has reopened their schools since April. Yeah. So it can work when your local transmissions have been brought down to a minimal. I think we only had 2 cases yesterday, and the day before that we only had like 6 or 7 cases. So that's one. And secondly, it's about ensuring that there's no new transmissions coming from outside the country. So, when you have cut off all this, your risk factors become much smaller. I know Korea had that problem, and there were 1 or 2 countries which reopened, like businesses, like Korea. Besides the school thing, they reopened, and then people went to party at some pubs and discos and all that, and they had a new wave. Yeah, but I think Taiwan was a very good example of when you have cut off the external COVID cases coming in, you can maintain it within your own borders pretty well.
Now, aside from the safety of the kids, what it's another issue now is what are we expecting from our Form 5 and Form 6 students taking SPM and STPM? When they get their results, when they go through an exam and we see their results, are we going to go through it and say, oh, it was like this because of lockdown, it was very high because of lockdown, it's very low because of lockdown, number of cases, whatever. How should we perceive the graduates of SPM and STPM moving forward for this particular year?
Very tough. I don't think they will play a big part. Yeah, because you just lost about 3 months. It's we all went through these exams, right? The 3 months are important. I'm not saying that they're not, but the chances are, if you haven't done your chemistry for the last 2 years, for the last 1 year, you haven't been paying attention for the last 1 year.
3 months not going to make a difference.
Yeah, the 3 months. So I don't think it will affect the way people perceive the results too much. Yeah.
It'd probably be an excuse for the students, though. It's like, oh, because I didn't go to school for 3 months, that's why my
results. That's just one of the things to worry about, right? Yeah.
But I like to look at things from a slightly more positive perspective. During these last 3 months, it's not just the children or the students who have been locked down. Their parents have been locked down together as well. So, in the past, when the students are going to school, the parents are all at work, nobody has time to check on each other. So, during these 3 months, parents had probably played a more active role in the education of their children and, probably been sticking to them.
That's true, actually.
Yeah,
that's true.
So you could get better results,
And parents suddenly remembered, wow, actually school is tough, right?